Biden administration and the left is next. And Sean is here to talk what's next in this trial.
Sometimes you scare me a little bit in the open.
All right, Sean Hannity, thanks. Don't go anywhere. Fake it till you make it. That's the new motto of the left wing of America. Because in 2021, if you dare to disagree with liberals and dare to speak out against the rise of lawlessness in America, beware. We saw it this week with the fake rush to judgment prosecution of Kyle Rittenhouse, the young man from Kenosha, Wisconsin, brazenly mistreated by the mainstream media, the vindictive left, and even the president of the United States, who lied and said that he was a white supremacist, a domestic terrorist, that he was part of a militia. This now 18-year-old was downright harassed and abused by a hostile prosecutor, a prosecutor who called into question the defendant's innocence in front of the jury simply because he exercised his constitutional right to remain silent before trial.
Since August 25th, 2020, this is the first time that you have told your story. You've also had the opportunity to listen to the testimony of all 30-some witnesses that have testified in this trial so far. After all of that, now you are telling us your side of the story, making the point that after hearing everything in the case, now he's tailoring his story to what has already been introduced.
The problem is, this is a grave constitutional violation for you to talk about the defendant's silence. That is, and you're right on the borderline.
So what really was the motivation of the prosecutor in this case? Why was the district attorney so quick to indict 17-year-old Rittenhouse within 48 hours of a complicated case where 3 individuals were shot at night in the middle of a riot, as hundreds of witnesses and hours of video needed to be reviewed? How was he so sure it was intentional murder versus second degree versus reckless or even self-defense? How is it that this young man, who immediately tried to turn himself in, was portrayed as a murderer who crossed state lines to kill, when he crossed that state line almost every day to work and visit his father and friends? The motivation? The crowd needed a villain. It was a give us a Barabbas moment. The mob wanted blood, and the DA was more than willing to appease them, giving them a 17-year-old without a real investigation.
I was angry. President Biden don't know my son whatsoever, and he's not a white supremacist, he's not a racist, and he did that for the votes. And I was so angry for a while at him. And what he did to my son, he defamed him.
Kyle Rittenhouse's mother angry and emotional in that exclusive interview with my next guest. Her son's trial has garnered national attention as he has been labeled a white supremacist and guilty of murder by the left before his trial had even begun. The host of Hannity, my friend Sean Hannity, joins me now. All right, good evening. You had Kyle's mother on. Broke my heart when she said, the president of the United States defamed my son. So it's not even about whether he's guilty of murder or not. It's calling him a white supremacist. You had her on the show. She seemed as credible as anyone.
Well, first of all, what bothers me the most, and I feel terrible for her, this is a pattern. They got Trump-Russia collusion wrong on every level, even the Washington Post acknowledging just yesterday that, in fact, their reporting on the Steele dossier was wrong. We covered that story for 3 years, and we were right. We were also right on the Cambridge police case. We were right on the UVA case. We were right on the Duke lacrosse case. We were right on the Ferguson, Missouri case and the Baltimore Freddie Gray case. There is a fundamental breakdown with the media and the Democrats. They politicize these high-profile cases without any evidence, without granting any presumption of innocence, without due process. And the results are horrific, because what they do in every case is they create this massive expectation of a result that is never going to occur.
Here's the problem. There's a rush to judgment. It's almost like in this case with Kyle Rittenhouse, less than 48 hours later, in the dark, at night, with hundreds of witnesses, with fires all over the place, police standing down, drones, videos. You don't even have time to look at it in less than 48 hours. They said, we've got our man. We're going to charge this guy with murder. Intentional.
I've done this 33 years. I've been in broadcasting.
Me too.
Right. So, and you, of course, your years as a DA.
Yep.
I never like to predict jury outcomes because you don't know what's in their mind.
You're right.
But if you look at the evidence in the Rittenhouse case, it's pretty compelling and pretty overwhelming. You have the star witness for the prosecution admitting he pointed a loaded gun at Kyle Rittenhouse before he shot.
Directly at his head.
Directly at his head. Okay. Then we have eyewitness testimony and a ton of video out there that shows one person grabbing Kyle's gun.
Right.
He's being chased by a mob. He gets his hat knocked off. He's on the ground. Then you got this picture of this guy with his foot in the air, about to stomp it right down and push his head into the pavement.
Yeah.
And now we get to the issue of what the law in Wisconsin is. And it's very clear if you are in fear of your life or severe bodily harm, you do have a right to self-defense. I don't see a guilty verdict here,
I don't either.
except maybe on the gun charge.
Yeah, and the gun charge is 9 months. He's already served a few months. And that's
right.
He was just short of 18. He could have had that gun. And by the way, to everybody who's listening, he didn't cross state lines with the gun. The gun was already in the other state. Enough with that craziness.
His father lived there.
His father lived there. He went there all the time. He worked there. You know, it's like 10 minutes away.
But there's one point I want to really put a lot of emphasis on here. Whether it's Barack Obama in the Trayvon Martin case,
right? Could have been my son.
Cambridge, could have been my son, right? Or hands up, don't shoot. That never happened. And a rush to judgment and prominent politicians and activists and, of course, the media fueling the fire. And they create an atmosphere where a town, a city, that a certain result is expected based on their reckless, irresponsible comments and based on the fact that they never allow simple due process, simple presumption of innocence.
Oh, the fundamentals of what this country is all about. But let me ask you something. He's a white supremacist. The judge is white. All the attorneys are white. The prosecutors, the defense attorneys.
3 people shot are white.
Yeah, 3 people shot are white. The defendant is white. I mean, is there going to be, are they going to burn down buildings if he's acquitted?
Well, you know, we got this January 6th commission. I condemn what happened on January 6th.
Well, I did too.
But here's what I'd like to know. Where's the Liz Cheney commission? We're on the 534 riots where we had dozens of Americans die.
Injured, businesses.
Thousands of police officers injured, pelted with bricks, bottles, rocks, Molotov cocktails.
Right.
Where's that, Liz Cheney? Where's that commission? Where's your lecture on the Constitution there now that you've aligned this yourself?
But here's the thing. The left is always faking it, and then they end up making it. And that was the point of my whole open. They fake it, they lie, the mainstream media agrees with them, and then they win. So finally, you've got Joe Biden. I'm going to put another $1.2 trillion and a few trillion more, and everything's going to be fine for all you stupid people who don't understand supply chain.
Oh, no, it's going to cost you nothing.
I forgot.
3.5 trillion. I'll do it, Joseph. Nothing. It's going to cost you nothing. Pay your fair share. Listen, we have a president, unfortunately, in my humble opinion, half the time I don't think he knows what day of the week it is.
But he doesn't know where he is.
And look at the aggression of Russia with Ukraine. Look at the aggression with China. Look at every single problem we have as a country. If it's the economy, go back to the Trump policies of low taxes and less regulation. If it's high energy prices, adopt Donald Trump's energy independence problems and stop begging OPEC. If it's the borders, stay in Mexico, build the wall, and get rid of this idiotic process and release.
Policies. But you know what the terrible part of it is? When he stopped the XL Keystone pipeline and he gave approval to the one in Europe, and now he's begging
he gave
OPEC.
it to Vladimir.
He gave it to Vladimir.
He's making Russia rich.
Yeah, and he's begging OPEC to drill a little more.
It's humiliating.
How sad is that? How pathetic is it? Anyway, you and I could do an hour show.
You know what? It is humiliating. Abandoning Americans in Afghanistan is humiliating.
Yeah, we haven't seen the end of the impact of his decision in Afghanistan. It's coming, Sean.
It will get worse, sadly.
We love you.
I hope I'm wrong.
Thank you. I hope
I love
you're
your
wrong,
show.
too. I love you more.
Sometimes you scare me a little bit in the open.
All right, Sean Hannity, thanks. And next, all the evidence in the Rittenhouse case points to just one conclusion.